Three, two, one. We have ignition. Strap in.
Straight Talk with Matt Hasley. Every Monday and Friday, 9 p.m. Central Time. Only on Armed Radio Global.
It's time for some Straight Talk with your host, Matt Hasley, coming at you. It's 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 Eastern. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Special thanks to our sponsors out there, eat24.com. If you ain't yet, well, log on to eat24.com. Download that app for your favorite mobile device. Click, order, and eat. It's like a food truck in your pants, really. It's just that easy. Also, hotsaucevault.com. Check out Louie at hotsaucevault.com. He's got hottest of the hot, wimpy for the wimp, and he's got gag gifts, you name it. Log on there. Louie's got it, hotsaucevault.com. Also, Lyft. Need a ride somewhere? Lyft will get you there. LYFT. Log on. Today is a special day in history. Well, it's a holiday. Martin Luther King Jr., originally named Michael King Jr., born January 15, 1929, in Atlanta, Georgia. Died April 4th, 1968. I was three years old at the time, in Memphis, Tennessee. He was a Baptist minister and a social activist who led the civil rights movement in the United States from the mid-1950s until his death by assassination in 1968. His leadership was fundamental, and that the movement's success in ending the legal segregation of African Americans in the South and other parts of the United States. King rose to national prominence as head of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, which promoted nonviolent tactics, such as the massive March on Washington in 1963, to achieve civil rights. He was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Early years, King came from a comfortable mid-class family steeped in the tradition of South Black ministry. Both his father and maternal grandfather were Baptist preachers. His parents were college educated, and King's father had succeeded his father-in-law as pastor of a prestigious Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta. The family lived on Auburn Avenue, otherwise known as Sweet Auburn, the bustling Black Wall Street, home to some of the country's largest and most prosperous black businesses and black churches in the years before the Civil Rights Movement. Young Martin received a solid education and grew up in a loving, extended family. It said the secure upbringing, however, did not prevent King from experiencing the prejudice then common in the South. He never forgot the time when he was about 6, when one of his white playmates announced that his parents would no longer allow him to play with King. Because the children were now attending segregated schools, dearest to the King in these early years was maternal grandmother, whose death in 1941 left him shaken and unstable. Upset because he had learned of her fatal heart attack while attending a parade without parents' permission, the 12-year-old King attempted suicide by jumping from a second-story window. In 1944, at age 15, King entered Morehouse College in Atlanta on a special wartime program intended to boost enrollment by admitting promising high school students like King. Before beginning college, however, King spent the summer on a tobacco farm in Connecticut. It was his first extended stay away from home and his first substantial experience of race relations outside the segregated South. He was shocked by how peacefully the races mixed in the North. It says, Negroes and whites go to the same church, he noted in a letter to his parents. I never thought that a person of my race could eat anywhere. This summer experience in the North only deepened King's growing hatred of racial segregation. At Morehouse, King favored studies in medicine and law, and they were eclipsed in his senior year by a decision to enter the ministry as his father had urged. King's mentor at Morehouse was the college president, Benjamin Mays, a social gospel activist whose rich oratory and progressive ideas had left an indelible imprint on King's father. Committed to fighting racial inequality, Mays accused the African American community of complacency in the face of oppression and prodded the black church into social action by criticizing its emphasis on hereafter instead of the here and the now. It was called a service that was not just lost on the teenage King. He graduated from Morehouse in 1948. So, you look at Dr. Martin Luther King, what he went through school, and he was younger. He, in the South, he learned that it was different than it was in the North. I was when he was marching in 1963. I wasn't even born yet. I grew up in the Midwest, so I never saw the segregation like they do. I never saw any like they had in the South, where they had, white fountains and black fountains, or white bathroom, black bathroom. I just could never understand that. I didn't know why. People would be raised that way. My parents never raised me that way. My parents never raised me to hate somebody for the color of their skin. So, I wonder where we would be today if he would still be alive. And it's kind of like where would we be today if JFK was still alive. I like the way his protests were nonviolent. I think the minute you start using violence to achieve an objective through protesting, that it mutes the point of your protest. So, he had some great quotes. And you read some of the quotes that he had. It says, true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it's the presence of justice. It says, King's response in 1955 when he was accused of disturbing the peace during the Montgomery bus boycott in Alabama. And there's one. Returning hate for hate multiplies hate. Adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. It was November 17, 1957, a sermon held in Montgomery when King talked about loving your enemies. Shallow understanding from the people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding from people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is much more bewildering than outright rejection. On April 16, 1963, in an open letter to Birmingham jail about white moderates and opposition within the black community, his I have a dream that one day the state of Alabama, whose governor's lips are presently dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, will be transformed into a situation where little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls and walk together as sisters and brothers. It was August 23, 1963, delivering his famous I Have a Dream speech from the steps of the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. It says, you think of how much sense it makes. Why we should be against each other just by the color of our skin. I don't know. I find it hard to believe that we can't get past that. You look in, other parts of the country, and you look at in other parts of the world where race means nothing. If you take two young kids, babies, if you put a room full of young babies that are probably 2 years old or whatever, they put a bunch of toys in there and they were of every different race. They would play with everybody. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't go up to each other and look at each other down and shun into groups of. They would play with everybody. Racism is taught through your upbringing and your social hangouts, whoever you hang with, whoever you're. But it's a day of tribute for Martin Luther King Jr., who did a lot for this country. Hopefully one day we'll be able to get past, racism. I don't think our racial relations have gotten better since President Obama has gotten in. I think they've actually gotten worse. It's sad. I hope we can get past that someday. So, hopefully his dream can someday come true. Over the weekend we had NFL games. We had 4 big games. And I think yesterday, pretty much the teams, it went like 50-50. I was rooting for the Cowboys just because they haven't been there for 20-some years, and I'm not a big Green Bay fan because Green Bay's in the same division as the Bears. But, you look at how that game's ended up. Really close games. I got to give them credit there. But they had Saturday, we had Seahawks Falcons, and the Falcons beat Seattle, which I was kind of surprised they beat it by as much as they did, 36-20. And the Patriots beat Houston 34-16. Green Bay topped Dallas 34-31. We're going to talk a little bit more about that game. And the Chiefs got beat 18-16 by Pittsburgh. We're talking a little bit about that, too. With, the ending of the game, you're talking about the Dallas, that, I guess they drew, the TV ratings were 48.5 million viewers. Best telecast since the Super Bowl. Fox afternoon Packers-Cowboys game brings a stunning all-time high for an NFC divisional playoff. It says the Green Bay Packers put an end to Dallas Cowboys' NFC championship ambitions in a stunning 11th hour victory. The audience stuck around. An average 48.5 million viewers watched the game, far and away the most watched telecast in over a year, and the most watched NFL playoff tilt of all time. The game peaked with a massive 62.4 million viewers when the Cowboys briefly tied the game with less than 2 minutes on the clock. Said earlier the game averaged 28.2 million overnight rating among households. That's a stunning 12% boost from even Game 7 of the 2016 World Series, which ultimately swung 40 million viewers. The primetime playoff matchup on NBC was almost as sweet. Also set a record, albeit just for the evening, with a 21.9 overnight rating among households. The showdown between AFC's Pittsburgh Steelers Kansas City Chiefs proved to be the best primetime showing on record for an NFL wildcard or divisional playoff game. Updated scores have it averaging 37.1 million viewers and a peak of 39.1 million viewers. Both the NFC and AFC showings bode well for the rest of this especially strong postseason. Well, good ratings for Dallas, but with all the hype and everything, for the Cowboys, it caused Super Bowl tickets. Said resale market for Super Bowl tickets slips after Cowboys ousted. The Super Bowl ticket resale market slumped 15 minutes after the Dallas Cowboys lost to Green Bay. Before the Sunday's playoff game, the cheapest ticket to Super Bowl LI on StubHub was $4,195. Shortly after the Cowboys were defeated, said the ticket price was down 20% to $3,349. Tickets in the lower end zone dropped 18%. Said ticket brokers had already been benefiting from people speculating the Cowboys would make their first Super Bowl in 21 years, and in nearby Houston, no less. They dropped 20% in market share. The thing that I have, and I was not really for either one team or the other. The thing that got me is they talk about the holding call there were two calls in the Dallas game. One I've never ever heard called, and it was the unsportsmanlike conduct, and I'm going to get into that in a minute, but the problem with the call of the holding call that actually stalled a drive, it was actually, I take it back. The unsportsmanlike conduct came first. The holding call was later. It says when an offensive player enters the huddle, has to participate in a play, or else it's a penalty. During the Cowboys' second offensive series against the Packers, Butler, number 19, was flagged for doing so. The penalty was a devastating one to the Cowboys. Nullified a 22-yard gain by Terrence Williams. Instead of getting the ball on the Packers' 15-yard line, the Cowboys had to run their next play from their own 48. I'd never heard of that call, ever. I'm like, I don't know how you make that call when you haven't made it all season. I see guys run onto the field. They get right to almost into the huddle, and then they run out because they find out that they weren't supposed to be in there to get to go with. I think it was a ticky penalty. I think that's something that you call during the regular season. You don't call an unsportsmanlike conduct that hasn't been called in years in an NFC playoff game. I think that's ridiculous. You end up doing is stalling a drive, even though by the letter of the law, that's a violation. I guarantee it's happened by other teams and they haven't called it. The consistency in the NFL officiating is terrible. And people go, they did when they did. I'm like, they called a holding penalty against the Cowboys, which gave Green Bay, I think it was a first down or whatever it was. When they didn't call one against Green Bay, when the guy has him in practically a chokehold around his neck from behind the guy as the guy's trying to run to go tackle Aaron Rodgers, and he's got a hooking around his neck from behind. And I'm like, are you kidding me? That's not a penalty? What is wrong with people? I said they have to be consistent. That's all you ask for. If you don't call the penalties the same for both teams, then you're deciding the outcome of a game. A lot of Dallas players were very upset by it. It said following the game, Butler was less than thrilled with the penalty and the refs in general. He goes, never heard of it in my life, Butler said via the Dallas Morning News. We couldn't beat the stripes, and you can quote me on that. Said a lot of Cowboy fans actually feel the same way as Butler. After the game, many Cowboy fans took to Twitter to point out all the bad no calls that went in favor of the Packers. It says, for instance, and they got video of it. You can go online, and it's got a hold. Number 70 for Green Bay has got a hold of 99 from behind. It says, it's so obvious. They had another one when the tight end was going, and he practically gets tackled, and there was a no call. Jason Witten. So, it's very subjective. You could call almost holding on every play, and then they call it at just drive-killing plays. It says Cowboy fans would probably just have no officials on the field if they ever face the Packers in the playoffs ever again. Besides the game, you also had the Dez caught it game after the 2014 season that won by the Packers after officials overruled Dez Bryant catch. That was a catch. They I don't know what it is. It's just something they're jinxed with the officials. It says they brought in a 2-receiver set on a substitution, and Butler was one of the 2 players that came in the huddle, stayed in the huddle, then departed. Corrente said in his pool report he was substituted for. He has to stay either in the game or they can call a timeout to get out of it. Of course, he went out. It's not an obscure rule. It's just part of the substitution mechanics and part of a substitution rule. Cowboy fans probably aren't going to buy the explanation. It's I can understand if it was widely called, and it probably happens more times than you can think of, and they never call it. So, I just think it was a terrible time for the officials to determine the outcome of a game. Same way later. Later in the game, it was they had the Chiefs playing Pittsburgh in the late night game, and Chiefs are going for a 2-point conversion to tie it up, and they call holding there, and I was like going, the timing of it, yes, it probably was a hold, but there's other holds that occurred that they didn't call, and I'm like, how they didn't call the helmet to helmet on one of the guys for Pittsburgh. They could have kicked him out. They could have ejected him. But, a targeting play. Anytime a guy takes his arms back and he's not trying to wrap the guy and tackle him, then it looks like it's a targeting play to me. But, yeah, I think that I think they need to do is be consistent. That's all everybody asks. You know, it's sad to see how the officiating is. If it's equal among everybody, then it's fine. But the problem is there's times that they don't call it. There's times when they do the exact same thing and one official will throw a flag and other officials won't. So that's the part that gets people so upset, is they don't have any consistency with it. So it gets people upset because then it affects how a game ends up. So, you know, looking at, I guess, Tom Coughlin. Not Tom Coughlin. Tomlin. Mike Tomlin from the Pittsburgh Steelers gets caught. Why a guy is doing a Facebook Live after a game, and he can be heard off camera giving an address to the team referring to the Pittsburgh's next opponent, which is the New England Patriots, as blank holes. Yeah. And he goes, you know, that's just, you know, I'm sure that gets said in every locker room, but you just can't be having it on, you know, live. I can't believe the guy's sitting there and Facebook Live, and I guarantee if his coach saw that, would just been gone off. But yeah, I think guy's sitting there taking a picture of himself, you know, watching it, filming himself live, and just it said right after Tomlin finished his speaking to the team, a Steelers player also off camera is heard urging the team to keep it cool on social media. Yeah, I'm just like, are you guys... he's one of the best receivers they got, Antonio Brown. And what's he doing? Giving the Patriots ammo to put on the blackboard to use all week. This is what they think of us. This is what they think of us. So, yeah, really a stupid decision. A lot of players they were talking about, they didn't have, like were interviewing some former NFL players, and they were like, we didn't have this, and we were lucky. So, yeah, I don't think Mike Tomlin would have been too happy if he would have saw him doing that. The new Chargers LA logo apparently isn't going over really well. It's LA with the lightning bolt, and then people proceeded to put ME after it, calling it lame. And it said Los Angeles fans and Clippers Lakers game Saturday booed the Chargers' new logo when it was shown on a video board. Then jeered tight end Jeff Cumberland when he was put on the big screen. Chargers CEO and President Dean Spanos also attended the game with his family. Spanos and the team announced Thursday that they are relocating for the next season from San Diego to Los Angeles. Cumberland signed with the Chargers as a free agent before 2016-2017 season, but tore his Achilles tendon in a preseason contest and never played a regular season game. So, I mean, you look at... Nobody likes to see a team, or actually, I wouldn't say nobody, but the team that's it's moving to likes it, but the team that is, you know, the host team right now, where it's leaving from, can't stand it. And I can understand it. I can understand them being upset. Also, Las Vegas Sportsbook suffered colossal losses from the NFL weekend action. And so with the home team New England Patriots Atlanta Falcons not only pulling out victories Saturday, but covering their spreads as well, combined with the underdog, betting-friendly Green Bay Packers and Pittsburgh Steelers winning their games outright. On Sunday, several sports books in Las Vegas per ESPN, reported extreme losses and high paydays for betting public. Jay Rude, Vice President, MGM Race and Sports, it's just colossal, he said. West Bank Superbook Assistant Manager Ed Summons, awful, can't be worse. Said Bill Sattler, Director of Specialty Games for Caesars Entertainment, seemed like a blue-collar betting day with the public parlaying, teasing, and pounding money lines on Packers and Steelers. We salvaged the under in the late game, but another solid week for the public. It says, and finally, William H. Sportsbook and Conglomerate, William Hill, which operates Sportsbook at 108 locations throughout the state, reported suffering the worst day in the company's 5-year history in Nevada. So much parlay liability had built up over the weekend. The book's 7-figure fate was sealed before the underdog Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Kansas City Chiefs 18-16 Sunday night. So, the towers in Las Vegas are tall for a reason. Despite losing the battle, you have to imagine bookmakers will win the war. But for now, yikes. The next major skirmish between bettors and the bookkeepers will occur this Sunday. Patriots -6, William Hill. The host Steelers and the Falcons -4, William Hill. Welcome Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. So, yeah, it'll be... I never do well on betting on those. I deal pretty much in shrink funds when I bet like that. But in other news besides NFL, Justin Thomas, Mr. 59, goes back-to-back, sets a new PGA Tour scoring record. Wow. I mean, is that amazing or what? You have... It just when you're on, you're on. That's the thing. He ended up. Oh, here we go. Let's get the leaderboard up here. You know, when you hear 4 rounds in the 60s and you think of this, he shoots 59, 64, 65, 65, and wins by 7 over Justin Rose, who shoots 66, 64, 66, 64. I mean, that's awesome. Jordan Spieth was 8 back at 19 under, and he had 4 rounds in the 60s. Shot the last day at 63. You had, looking at scores each day, Jack Johnson shot 61 on Friday. Ches Reavie shot 61 on Sunday. And I don't think there was anybody Saturday. Oh, 60 by Kevin Kisner. I mean, you look at that, there was a 59 possible every day of the week. That's impressive. But Justin Thomas to go crazy, he wins by 8 or 7 shots. Everything went his way. You look at, he had, he just won like $2.5 million in 2 weeks. He's 23 years old. I mean, tell me you won't be ready for this season. This got to give you a huge shot in the arm. They had also, was it the Abu Dhabi Classic is coming up. McIlroy had to withdraw because of a rib injury. You know, you just think he's too young to have any kind of injuries like that. But he won't be able to play this week in the Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship after MRI determined that he had a stress fracture in one of his ribs. You know, that's the problem with that, is that turning from that, that's going to take a little while for him to heal. And you hope that, you know, having a stress fracture like that, it doesn't linger on. But, you know, having a stress fracture could happen that way. You have talking about other things. Rose added the Sony Open to his schedule because of the tour's new strength of schedule rule, which requires members to play at least one tournament they haven't played in 4 years. He says it worked out fine just for the Englishman. So, debuting a new claw putting grip, Rose was solid on the greens and typically excellent off the tee and shooting 20 under par. He goes, I'm not joking when I say I won the tournament, Rose said. It was a positive start. So they talked to Pete Spieth afterward, and he said, it was like I was playing to win, even though I was, for second place was like feeling like we won. But they asked McIlroy, when did he get hurt? McIlroy said he didn't quite sure, but he does have one theory. It could be a result of muscle fatigue after testing equipment during the off season. He goes, I hit a lot of drivers, he said. You put a lot of force in your body when you do that. I just can't see him, from breaking a rib that way. Jim Furyk was named as Ryder Cup captain for the 2018 Ryder Cup. The U.S. team revamped structures and has added more cohesive to what a mysterious one and done process, but also eliminated nearly all of the suspension about future captains. Fred Couples was rumored to be in the mix for next year's matches in Paris, but Furyk was a perfect choice for the 2018. So here's a guess on the next few captains. We're talking like Steve Stricker 2020, Zach Johnson 2022, which I'm surprising there, maybe Phil Mickelson 2024, and one wild card, the health of a 41-year-old Tiger Woods, and where we would potentially slide in that rotation. So, yeah, I wonder why they skipped Couples, but I like Freddie Couples. I'd love to see him be. I think he'd be a great captain. Maybe he turned it down. You never know. Maybe they came to him and he said, no, thanks. You really don't know. They had, Friday? Really, 4 days away. We have the inauguration of the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump. But you look at security for the inauguration is going to be just unbelievably tight. And they're planning for, truck attacks, everything. With the security measures related to Friday's presidential inauguration are already visible in the forms of Jersey barriers placed on the streets near Lafayette Square. Parking restriction will begin Wednesday. Streets will start closing Thursday. By the weekend, the nation's capital will transform into a virtual fortress of roadblocks, fences, and armed police. Streets will be barricaded with trucks filled with sand. 5 metro stations will close Friday. Crossing Pennsylvania Avenue will be the next to impossible. The peaceful transition of power is made possible by overlaying a tight security grid using 28,000 security officers or officials over 100 square blocks of primetime down real estate. From the White House to the Capitol and beyond with a price tag of tens of millions of dollars. An estimated 700,000 to 900,000 people are expected to watch Donald Trump become president. I'll be watching on TV, but I would not want to go there. Just be too crazy. And they're talking about, people are talking about possibly rioting and stuff like that, which I think is ridiculous. It's part of our democracy. But here's one that just really kind of flipped my mind. This came out of lawofficer.com. And it's not a long article, but it doesn't make any sense. It says, civil rights groups are concerned that the police will violate their rights during the inauguration, so they intend to record their behavior. Meanwhile, the ACLU is demanding that police turn off their body-worn cameras during the events. DC police say their policy is to only record when there is a police activity and they do not consider monitoring protest an activity. They should. We are concerned about what they will do with the data, says Monica Hopkins Maxwell of the District of Columbia ACLU. Ironically, at the same time, the ACLU demands the police not record their activities. They have launched a new app called Mobile Justice that encourages others to record law enforcement. Really. I think they should turn on the body cameras of the police and leave them on, because you never know when you're going to catch a protester doing something that should be punished. And if they can get them by their video, then they should. Yeah, just think about that. It makes no sense. We demand you turn yours off, but we're going to have ours on. Yeah. I guess there was a video that came out under, like a, I don't know what, where they recorded them, and they're trying to get these chemicals to cause a disruption, and it was underground video, they call it. I'm like, these people are just idiots. I can't believe that they actually want to go to that level. They don't care. Other thing in sports I forgot to talk about. Cubs went to the White House today. I watched it live. It was pretty good. But Barack Obama's a White Sox fan, so that he would not put on the jersey that they brought for him, but he did hold it up, take some photos with it. I thought it was a good visit. I hate to see Dexter Fowler going to be Cardinal, but glad to see the Cubs got their visit to the White House. So we had other news. We had, this is one that came. I don't know if you guys are into auctions or anything like that, but Christopher Reeve's Superman costume and Michael Keaton's Batsuit are up for auction. It says Christopher Reeve's costume from the original 1978 film are up for auction. So the listing for the amazing costumes at Nate D. Sanders Auctions, and they say they're going to fetch a pretty penny. It said, let's start with the Superman costume donned by the late great Reeve, who passed away in 2004. Very rare Superman muscle tunic worn by Christopher Reeve during the filming of Superman. It says opening bid for the piece is Nerd History is $40,000. The auction ends January 26th. It says body of the batsuit is formed black rubber segments covered in textured integral cape and cowl style mask with long black leather gloves, boots, gold plastic belt, and bat symbol. According to the auction house description, the original parts of this costume worn in the film are the cowl, cape, and body. The gloves, belts, and insignia and shoes are replicas for the display. Opening bid is $35,000. But that's not all that is up for auction that I've heard. Also, Burt Reynolds 600 horsepower Pontiac Trans Am. I remember Smokey and the Bandit was one of my was all-time favorite shows. It says they called it Burt Reynolds and his Screaming Chicken special edition Trans Am. In 2014, one of the movie's original promo cars sold for $450,000. Months later, a mere tribute car briefly owned by Reynolds brought $170K. Last year, a second highly controversial promo car fetched $550,000. Now another old Bandit-style Pontiac is headed to auction, and they're wondering how much this one will bring. It says all signs point to megabucks. The car is a 1978 Firebird Formula Pack Sirius Resto Mod firepower. Under the hood is a fuel-injected 505 CID V8 from Butler Performance. Trick aluminum heads, March pulleys, ceramic headers, and all full custom 3-inch exhaust. Plus all the cooling, aluminum radiators, electric fans, functional shaker hood necessary for claimed 600 horsepower. Sweet looking car. I remember that. I mean, that was just the car back in the late 70s, early 80s. Everybody wanted a Trans Am. Our tech-wise, here's one. Let me see here before I make sure I got the... Yep. Bendable and foldable phones are coming. It says, are you ready? This is the wildest thing I've ever seen. It said she pushed hard down the rectangular phone, and like a slap bracelet, it clenched around her wrist. The audience gasped. The internet went wild. The articulated wraparound phone, known as the C+, was a concept device from Lenovo, used to wow the crowd as part of a larger launch last June that included a modular Moto Z and Fab 2 Pro. The first phone using Google's Tango software for augmented reality. The C Plus may have only been a prototype, but it might as well have been a fireworks show for the imagination ignited about the future of truly flexible phones that can bend and even fold. As powerful as today's phones are, their rectangular reliability is becoming a boring necessity that we hardly see at all. And that's why handsets that bend, twist, snap, and fold will electrify and energize the industry, even if these newfangled future devices limp and lag at first. It said, why would we want a bendable or foldable phone? Flexing, folding handsets are visually and intellectually cool because rigid electronic pieces usually don't bend, not at least without a hinge. But there's an actual use for them beyond pushing the boundaries of what designers and scientists can do. Actually, there are few folding device gives you a smaller, more portable package to carry around. It's essentially double the size of your screen. In addition, devices like this will be able to be product or produced like newsprint, said Roel Vertigel, who directs the Human Media Lab in Canada Queen's University and works on prototype models. Imagine that, a phone that you could just, like a slap brand wrist bracelet, slap band. And it's just, well, you just walk up and slap it around your wrist and your phone will be around your wrist. That's cool. That would be neat. A phone that you can just fold up, stay in your pocket, that's thin. That's what I would like to see. That's the technology that's going. They're getting everything smaller and easier to use. They showed one where it actually, you turn your wrist and it shoots it onto your arm. I like that, but I want to do is be able to do is project it onto something to where I don't have to turn my arm a certain way to use it because it's not natural. I want to be able to do is project it up onto a screen projection like you would like in some of these cars that have the projects their speed and everything up on the windshield. That way you never have to take your eyes off the road. You can constantly look up, be looking on the road and see how fast you're going. That's technology that I think is cool. I don't know how they're going to be able to do is get batteries that are going to be able to withstand, being able to be bendable and foldable. Well, that'll be interesting. I'm sure they'll come up with technology to be able to do that. I hate to think what one of those is going to cost. Be pretty cool to have, but got to see where it goes to. But to see one, actually bendable, foldable phones, and they show a picture of one, it's wild. That would be neat. Apparently, the wife of the Orlando terror attack got arrested. FBI arrested the wife of the man who carried out the deadly terrorist attack in Orlando, Florida. That's a New York Times article. And charged her with obstructing the investigation. Noor Salman, whose husband Omar Mateen killed 49 people and wounded dozens, and Orlando nightclub that was popular with gays, was also charged with aiding and abetting by providing material support, the officials said. She was taken into custody by FBI agents out at her home outside San Francisco, where she had been living with her young son. Prosecutors had been weighing charges for her for months in the aftermath of the attack by her husband. Investigators interviewed Salman for hours after the attack and came to believe that she was not telling the truth about her husband's plan to carry out the rampage. She's expected to make an initial appearance on Tuesday at federal court in Northern California. So it would very hard for me to believe that she didn't know what was going on. Here's a weird one. Just came out. This was just on MSN. Alleged mastermind letter reaches mastermind of 9/11. His letter reaches the White House. It says 2014 letter addressed to Barack Obama for the man accused of orchestrating the 2011 or September 11, 2001 terrorist attack has arrived at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. A White House source said Monday. There was no immediate word on whether the president had read the letter and what, if any, kind of reaction he had to it. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, 51, is at Guantanamo Bay waiting a death penalty trial as alleged mastermind of 9/11 attacks that nearly killed 3,000 people in New York. He wrote to Obama in 2014 about Muslim oppression at the hands of the West in general and the United States in particular. His lawyer David Nevin said then he also shares his views on what happened in Iraq during the periods of U.S. sanctions and events in Palestine and Gaza over the years. But the prison declined to deliver it. Then on January 6th, Mohammed's judge, Army Colonel James L. Pohl, ordered the prosecutors to get it to the departing president at least a week before Donald Trump takes office. Obama steps down Friday and should be able to take the letter with him into private life. Well, I'm wondering if he's hoping that he will commute his sentence or something. A White House staffer who declined to be identified said the correspondence had been delivered, but said there were no additional details to share at this time. The Pentagon's chief war crimes prosecutor, Army Brigadier General Mark Martins, had opposed release of the letter in a court filing that called it propaganda. He also urged Pohl to defer to the prison whether it should be mailed to the president. So, yeah, just I don't know why they would deliver it. And let's see here. Other news, they had it said Utah woman, she calls the wrong number for help and actually gets the right person. Police say an 80-year-old Utah woman was unable to move for hours after falling, dialed the wrong number for help. But by chance, she just happened to get the right person. So the Daily Herald reports that Haleen Johnson meant to call her son when she finally reached for a phone after the fall at her Taylorsville home. But she mixed up the number. The wrong number she dialed happened to be a police detective. West Valley City police officer Dana Pugmire kept the woman on the line, and as he helped get paramedics to her house. He stayed with her on the phone until to help arrive Johnson was hospitalized but expected to recover. She says he's grateful to the detective who kept listening to a misdialed call. And a lot of people do is hang up. Luckily, this detective did. So, apparently heads are rolling in the Clinton Foundation, too. It says, the Clinton Foundation announced it's laying off 22 staffers on the Clinton Global Initiative, keeping with the plan to deal with negative spotlight put on the organization during the former Secretary of State Clinton presidential campaign. When you think about the layoffs, they're probably laying them off because they're not getting near as many donations as they used to. The layoffs were reportedly announced internally in September ahead of Clinton's Donald Trump. And accepting other jobs. At the time, it had become clear the future of the initiative was in doubt. Yeah, I doubt that they were closing it down that early. That just sounds a little hanky-panky there. Let me see if I can find here. European police siege jihadi weapons capable of downing aircrafts. Its pro-jihadist EU leaders continue to play with fire, it says. This is the article that was wrote. Anti-terror investigators confiscated 12,000 weapons this week, just before they were sold to terrorists by a Spanish gang, who have now been arrested. Police said the weapon trafficking network was terrifying in its size and capability, which now includes anti-aircraft weaponry. The country's interior minister said that several anti-aircraft guns capable of bringing down aircraft were seized on Thursday, along with thousands of rifles. That's scary. They start shooting down commercial aircrafts. So, I was talking about how Donald Trump's inauguration is this Friday. There's plans for people to riot and cause all kinds of protests. Well, a band of pro-Trump bikers are headed to D.C. to form a wall against violent protesters at the inauguration. A lot of them are wearing, it's thousands of bikers. I've seen multiple pictures. It says the group has grown to about 200,000 members that plan on going to help. So hopefully there won't be too much problems and be non-violent. I don't mind you want to protest. You want to protest Donald Trump being president. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But I don't like the fact that you should be to do it through violence. If you want to do it like Martin Luther King would do and do it through non-violence, I have no problem with that. But to sit there and burn property and do stuff and destroy and injure people, that's not right. That's just I consider childish. So coming Wednesday, we're going to talk about some new drone technology. We're also going to talk about EU offering free money. We'll get into that Wednesday. And some of the craziest laws in every state. We'll have updates on inauguration and any other updates in sports-related field and other stuff coming down in odd news. But it's that time. It's a fast hour. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We'll see you on Wednesday night. Everybody have a great night. Be safe. If you see something, say something. And we'll see you when we see you. Helps if I get sound there. Let's go. How about maybe a little bit How about now?